Okay, everyone. Um, Good evening. Welcome to Medicine Buddha. I want to start before I go on. So I'm going to light a ceremonial candle. Um, I really always have aspirations to always light a ceremonial candle before every teaching, but it rarely happens. But I wanted to offer this particularly today as this is beginning of the observation of Diwali, which is an Indian Hindu associated holiday, Festival of Lights, Awakening. Um, I was Diwali is always really special because that was I was able to spend Diwali one year uh, uh, in, uh, in Benares on the Ganges. So, which was just really beautiful and special. But so lighting this, to symbolize, our journey into darkness and the remembrance of the light that we have to cultivate right now. And this journey into darkness is real. It's real right now. Absolutely. It is absolutely a journey into what feels like just delusion um, and suffering and more trauma, but it's not, it doesn't have to be that way. So this is why we light the candles, we observe the light, we remember the light to take into this darkness, right? And, this is what we hold on to, when we have to do really intensive work, when we have to go into our fear and our traumas, and just really the shit that scares us, you know. And sometimes it's just this little flame, and this flame can symbolize hope, joy, whatever, you know. Maybe this is only thing we have to hold on to. Um, so we hold on, we light our candles, we hold on to it, um, making some scent offerings, as well. These are just the small ritual things that we can do um, that I think can be really quite powerful and impactful for us in our practice right now. Um, so again, welcome, particularly to those who are new. This is our practice of Medicine Buddha, and it's so wonderful to be in this kind of virtual space with you. You can feel free to introduce yourself as well in the chat box there. As always, you can post a question in the Ask a Question section, which should be at the very bottom of your screen. And I will try to get to all those questions as well. And just a reminder to prayer requests can go onto the doc, the prayer request doc, which there's already been a link posted, but it'll be posted again as well. So there you go. There's the prayer request, and I'll offer those as well. We have Emma from Sheffield, England. I have taught a one-day retreat in Sheffield near the university there. I think the University of Sheffield several years ago. So fun memories of Sheffield. However, the hills and the things you have to walk up and down in the city are not fun memories for me. I hope you can join us on the 20th next year. Not next year, next month, November 20th of next month, when I'll be offering a one-day retreat in Portsmouth, South Sea. I know Sheffield is a little bit north, but that's for all of our UK friends. And Mari from Brazil, thank you for joining as well. Have a lot of folks in Brazil that I've taught with and taught for. I had a lovely conversation with someone this week uh, um, at what am I forgetting? At Vanderbilt University, Vanderbilt Divinity School, where I gave a talk and a conference about leadership and so forth. But anyway, I can go on and on about all memories I have. Toronto, love Toronto as well. So wonderful. So anyway, as always, sign up for my email list and newsletter. You can stay up to date with everything as well. So again, yeah, lights. And we're gonna be working with light again in our session today. Light is really something that we have to choose. Like we have to choose the light. Because it's so easy to unconsciously choose the darkness, right? And when we're not actively and consciously choosing the light, then there are ways in which we begin to be consumed by darkness. I have a series of teachings coming up later on, probably beginning of next year, around spiritual warfare. Actually, the one-day retreat in Portsmouth in the UK is kind of opening up some of those teachings. But in these teachings is really around spiritual warfare, which is where I will be exclusively hanging out next year in terms of like teaching topics. And I believe this is a time of spiritual warfare. Of course, there's lots of political and social warfare, but underneath the political and social struggle is a spiritual component or an unseen component, right? That many of us need to head to do work. And this is part, I think all practice that I do, from mindfulness to the seven homecomings, is actually an expression of spiritual warfare. There are tools. They are tools that can be used in spiritual warfare. Primary of those tools would be the seven homecomings practice, which I developed specifically for us to experience agency, protection, and to learn how to channel energy and power through the support of our guides and so forth, and elders and deities, and, so forth and so on, right? You can't be in this time without deepening an engagement with your protectors and ancestors and the land and the sky and all the elements, right? These are energies that we take refuge in. These are energies that we begin to channel into helping bring clarity, right, into what's happening right now, and healing, and whatever it may be that you need or your communities need. Like we begin to channel these energies into benefiting others and ourselves. I'll go ahead and announce this today because I think this lines up with so much of what we're talking about. So myself and Spring Washam, and some of you know, Dharma teacher, and priestess and shaman, we are developing or creating. We actually have started recording a podcast, which will drop in January, called the Spiritual Underground or the Spirit Underground. And it's going to, be about spiritual warfare, plant medicine, magic, Black abolition. We are both devotees of Harriet Tubman. And so the cornerstone of a lot of these teachings is our kind of channeling and connection to Harriet Tubman. Now, Spring is actually publishing a book on Harriet Tubman. And her book is coming out in March, and I wrote the foreword for that, for her book. And my book will be coming out a year from now, next Halloween, taking up, further this idea of spiritual abolition, and sainthood and so forth. So that's coming out in January. We've recorded 2 episodes so far. So it's going to be real. It's like all over. It's like everything, it's like paranormal psychology and social justice and magic and plant medicine and shamanic culture, like everything kind of mixed up together. So I'm excited, I'm really excited to share this. It's a conversation that I can't have with anyone else. I'm really happy about that. And I can't wait for you. It's open, this is for everyone to really learn from it. To hear Dharma teachers, Buddhist teachers talk about the complexity of our practices, that we're Dharma teachers and shamans, and shaman is a very new identity location. Of course, I didn't identify myself as a shaman. That was yet another title that apparently I earned and was given to me. So we're going to talk about all of that great stuff as well. So, going back to this idea of spiritual warfare, right? And I come from a lineage of spiritual warfare. I mean, this is what, I come from a family of ministers and, people embedded in the church. I grew up with these practices, I grew up with the songs and the music that descended, that have been carried from generation to generation, beginning with, my enslaved ancestors, right? And I've been able to connect even further back beyond slavery into my African ancestry as well, to connect to magic, as well. So, yeah. And this is real, and this isn't like a game either. Like, this is like when you step into spiritual warfare, you're actually catching the attention of a lot of dark forces, right? And these are real dark forces. This is like, I don't necessarily believe in the devil, but I do believe in many, many devils, right? And once you choose the light, you become, I hate to say this, but you do become a target, right? That's part of the warfare, right? And again, this is why I've offered a practice like the 7 homecomings, because this is a tool that protects us if you take it seriously. If you can take everything that comes out of my mouth seriously, I'm not trying to like position myself as, as whatever, but you also have to understand that, like, when I talk about spiritual warfare, I am very good at spiritual warfare. Like, if this is spiritual warfare, I'm a general. That's right. So I don't want to come off as arrogant, or whatever, but like, I know how to do this. And this is something I've been doing for many past lives, and it's something I continue to do now. And this life, I wouldn't be here doing what I do if I didn't have the capacity to protect myself, or if I didn't have the capacity to link and to ally with ancestors and other spirits and deities around me for protection. And these are things also in my book that you'll get a lot of, and you'll get, of course, a lot of this in Spring's book as well. Um, but there are realms, you know, of beings committed, right, to our freedom, to the abolition in this world system, right, that are waiting to be allied with. You know, they're waiting for us to touch them, right? Because this whole thing around spiritual warfare, and this is what we you know, this is what we're practicing in Medicine Buddha as well. It's like the blessings don't activate until we reach out and touch the blessing, or we reach out and touch into the consciousness of beings, right? It's you know, it's like this very traditional teaching um, in Buddhism around compassion, which is called the, you know, the hook of the Buddha. The hook. So the hook of the Buddha is like, we have to get the Buddha. Of course, I'm gonna like completely like remix this into something completely different. So the Buddha is like a hook, right? And that we have to reach or extend ourselves and get hooked to the Buddha. Like the Buddha, in a way, does come to meet us, but we have to consent to the meeting. And when we consent to that meeting, we extend ourselves and we connect in the same way that we do our earth touching practice in this, you know, this tradition, right? Where my consciousness, you know, touches into the consciousness of the earth intentionally. And this is the same thing. We start intentionally touching into the energies around us that are waiting for us to open, to reach out, right? Until we open, there can be no real powerful transformative link. Um, you know, so yeah, you know, one of the visualizations that I've taught in the past is to imagine ourselves like a flower that blooms. And when we bloom, we open, our petals open to the warmth and the energy of the sun. The sun, in this case, being the blessings, the consciousness, the energies of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, right? Like to open, right? So, you know, we may try that. We may revisit that practice tonight. To bloom, to blossom, and open to the energy, you know, of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, to feel that warmth, right? To feel the light. You know, it's like sometimes many of us, I think, feel like we're in this cold, dark night right now. And maybe we've felt like that our whole lives. And I know people do feel like that, you know, constantly. And when we imagine ourselves being like a beautiful flower, right? And even in this darkness, we begin to imagine that all our, you know, 7 homecomings are above our heads. And they begin to radiate down on us. And we open and we can feel that light. And I feel it now, you know? Like I feel the warmth, the love, the joy, the compassion, you know, of all these beings. Right. And I notice I see Meta on. I'm offering prayers for Pip as well. So I got the email. I really struggle with returning messages in any form these days, but I do get them. And eventually, in Bhumi Sparsha, on the Bhumi Sparsha side of things, we'll have a way, you know, we're gonna have like some type of active prayer thing set up so we can get prayers. But again, just put all these prayers in the prayer requests, and that way I can go back and look at them when I'm offering prayers. And this week, with Diwali. I observe Diwali towards the end of the week. So I'll be doing a series of fire pujas where I will be offering these prayers, as well. And then next Monday is Halloween, so we're going to do some really interesting light and ancestor work. And then later that night, I'll do my nighttime firework outside my backyard, um, and take the prayers from our session. But anyway, um, yeah, so many, just if you get a message, you can send it to Eric, send it to Gumi Smash. It always gets to me. And I keep those prayers in I practice. Um, so opening again, like it's, all these horror movies that, which is just like all in our face right now. And I love horror movies too. I like horror movies because let's just say I'm armed against some of this nonsense that goes on in the unseen world. So like I'm not particularly afraid of certain things, but with horror movies, like I've often said this, but sometimes I just kind of watch horror movies as like documentaries, actually, because I don't find that they differ with some of my experiences that I've had in doing this work. That a very good rule to follow essentially is that in samsara, in this reality, everything is happening on some level, in some plane, in some existence, in some world, on some planet. Like everything is happening. And it's easy to feel afraid. But again, coming back to the seven homecomings, we use this practice to create our barriers, our shields. We connect to the light, because these beings in the seven homecomings, they're countless, they're numberless. Like if we can just lean into them in that way. Of course, the blessings of Medicine Buddha, is also extremely potent, extremely powerful as well. And what we have to develop is a sense of faith, right? That when we call on the resources of the deities and the seven homecomings, that those resources, those blessings are there. Like they're just there, So if you find yourself in situations where you're maybe confronting some dark energy, like this is where you go. You go to the light. Let the light hold you, right? Yeah. You have to choose the light. And I know that some of you think, well, of course I'm on the side of light, but I want us to formally in our practice choose the light, and we'll probably just do this tonight. I want us to learn how to choose the light, and that's just again just saying I'm on the side of light. I'm on the side of clarity and love and compassion and working for the liberation of all beings. I'm on that side. I'm not on the side of perpetuating violence and harm and delusion and ignorance and drama. I'm on the side of liberation, right? I'm on the side of getting free. I'm on the side of helping others to get free as well. And you have to double check. You have to check. Am I really about getting free, or am I really about just like perpetuating and cycling through the drama, right? And the confusion and the jealousy and the resentment, right? Or am I being consumed by the fear? Because a lot of dark energy loves fear. That's people, they feed off of people's fear, right? Because fear can be so, it can really shut us down. It's a fear can contract us. It can shut us down, and then we're not open and expansive. That's how so much of spiritual warfare is really about expansion and opening, right? And you can't connect to the energy of light if you're contracted and shut down. If you're lost in the trauma, then it's really hard to open to the light, because the fear keeps us from trusting the light, which is this experience of space and expansion. So what are you feeling right now? Like what's coming up for you? You can put it in the chat box, or you can like just hold it yourself. But like what's coming up for you? How are you feeling after hearing all of this? And some of you who are who've been with me for a while, this is, I'm always talking about this, but particularly for those of you who are new, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Fear and dread. It sounds natural, right? But why dread though? I get fear, and of course dread is anxiety, it's fear, it's aversion, but why dread? Like what are you dreading? Right. Joy and sadness. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah, I'm just reading through everyone's responses. Um, Hmm. How can you just hold the fear, right? We talked about this last week or the week before, in free radicals. We talked a lot about this in free radicals, right? That it was like, how do we take care of ourselves and the world and our communities by first starting with this basic, I say, technology of just holding, And this is something I really emphasize in New Saints, right? Like, this is one of the principal magics of this path of the new saint, which is a rethinking of the bodhisattva, is our capacity to hold and not react, but to choose how to respond instead, right? And what also is important for us too is, mm, well, it's important for us to understand what we're really trying to protect. Like, what am I really protecting? What am I really afraid of losing? You know, like, so much of the tension and the fear and the dread arises because there's something that we're trying to protect, or someone that we're trying to protect, right? And we may confuse that. We may say, well, this is love. Like, I want, particularly thinking about people, right? I love a person or my community or wherever I belong. I love these people and I want them to be safe and well. I don't want anything to happen to them. So my fear arises out of a worry for their safety and their well being. Again, which is very natural, right? But love has to be this experience of expansion and space, not a fixation on worry and fear, right? And in this tradition of practice, we are situated within the relative, but we're also connecting to the ultimate. So as I am working to protect, to free, to tend to, in the relative, I am slowly beginning to understand and embody the ultimate truth, right? Which is that this is also an illusion, that this is a dream at the same time. And my body, which is like at the heart of so much of our struggle, it's our intensity around preserving life, our life, right? Being afraid of death, really misunderstanding death is what we're struggling with, right? But it's not just a misunderstanding of death, it's also an over fixation and attachment to the illusion of life, an illusion of this realm. Well, this is real, right? But it's actually not so real, right? Then what's the balance in bringing, again, this is the Heart Sutra, which I know I'm always saying I'm going to teach a course in the Heart Sutra, but I will, you have to keep praying and wishing, you know. Um, but it's gonna come. It's gonna come. It won't be this long course. It'll be maybe a, I don't know. I'm not gonna get into it now, but this is the Heart Sutra, right? I have to bring these extreme truths together, the truths of form and formless, or illusion and emptiness, or whatever, bringing these extremes together of materialism and nihilism, bringing it together and saying, well, it's both. Like, how can we, as when we bring these two extremes together, how do we live in the world, taking the world seriously and being involved in the work of the world, and understanding ultimately that this is just another illusion. This is just a matrix, a program that's running. How can I work and really be in the world and at the same time understand that this world is just an illusion at the same time, right? And sometimes we struggle with our attachment to people because we're struggling to actually touch into the grief of what loss and change and ultimately impermanence means. Right? How can I grieve impermanence as a method, as a path to dissolve my fixation to the illusion of permanence? And it's different. It may be different for, when I think about the world now, it may be a little different because I am very confident that there's another side, that we're going to come out on another side to everything that's happening, particularly in this country. Well, a lot of countries um, right now, but like particularly here in the United States, um, you know, this political warfare that we're going through, there's an end to it and another side, right? But like to get to that other side, we will lose things, right? Which has to happen. You know, Ultimately, we've already lost it, because it never existed to begin with, right? Um, I think I think it's going to happen in my lifetime. I absolutely believe, you know, um, as I always say over and over and over again, it's that like it's like in the universe, which is actually quite extraordinary, but like in this whole universe, there's so much energy being directed into this world system right now. Um, there's so many beings emerging um, that we're actually on the upswing. I know it's hard to feel that, but like there's an upswing happening. Like we're lifting out of a lot of like this really intense, heavy, dark energy, but we have to metabolize it as we lift it. This is why things can feel so heavy. And then there's all these beings and energies and so forth that are helping us do that, right? And some of our work, part of my work is making sure that beings Well, this is, we'll talk about this. Spring and I will talk about this later. But I can't talk about it specifically. But you know, I will just say that like some of our work has been opening these gateways and portals to make sure that these beings can touch this world, right? And I think that's something that some of you have been doing as well. Um, and that's part of the spiritual warfare. It's like making sure, like in any war, tactics are a big part of warfare, right? And part of tactics is making sure, part tactics is, yeah, making sure that like, certain decisions and like moves and maneuvers are effective on a battlefield, but also, tactics are also about making sure that those who are fighting have the resources that they need to fight, you know, making sure that they have the food and water, whatever. I mean, it's just like a material thing, but like making sure that like people have the energy and connections to energy sources in order to do this work, right? And that's something that I do. Part of my work is to make sure you all have these connections to seven homecomings. You see how this comes back to the seven homecomings often. Like to make sure that you have these connections that you can do the work that you need to do right now, that you can protect yourself and so forth and so on. But again, like so much of this work is learning that like things will be lost, things will change, right? And to not forget that, but that doesn't mean that we are consumed or overconsumed by the worry and anxiety of loss and the grief of losing things. That's not what that means either, because we we call upon space. Yeah, I would say space is like an element or a truth that begins to hold everything. But again, the deeper you practice and the more you begin to understand what you are, right? That you're not your body, you're not your identities, right? That this world is just this illusion. And there's this incredible space that begins to open up when you embody, when you begin to really know that, right? There's an incredible space where you can start responding to things instead of just habitually reacting. And that's where we're moving towards in our practice over and over again. That's my only intention, is to get you into that space, to get literally into space, right? And out of this contraction and shutting down. You know? And this is why, I tell you to, if you want to connect to me, come and meet me and practice, right? When you're in meditation, that's where I'm at. Like I'm in the emptiness, I'm in space, right? Um, like I'm in relationship with countless beings, right, who are working to free us, right? And so connecting to me is connecting to them, right? And this is how transmission works. This is how this worked with my teacher, right? I can connect to my teacher, and in connecting to my teacher, I connect to my teacher's retinue. All my teachers' retinues, right? When I connect to Ma, Sati Bhagavati, right? I connect to Kali, I connect to the mother. When I connect to Nola Rinpoche, I connect to, I mean, again, to like the same range of deities, all the deities, to emptiness itself, right? but to feel that, I mean, I don't know, an essence, like to connect to, I don't know, what is it? Confidence, joy, love. This is, I call it in New Saints, I call it awakened care. And that's really literally the best language that I can come up with. Like awakened care is just this experience, is like an ocean of awakened care. Like it's love and compassion and joy and emptiness, but it's just like this ocean of care for myself and for others. I can feel that as this energy like pulsating through the universe. You know, you can call it the mother or whatever, but that the world is only an expression of the light. And the light itself is an expression of emptiness. Right? So I want to, let's, you know, we're going to work with the light now. And with this, you know, we are care. We are the expression of this care, you know. Oceans, right? Oceans, boundless oceans of care. Right, so let's see what we can do there, right? If you have a candle readily available, you can light it. Um, so next week, I want everyone to bring a candle to practice. Well, if you have one now, that would be great. In your practice areas or just in your home, having candles right now. This is, I mean, this is the practice of light. This is the season, Diwali, you know, moving into, of course, the um, not the equinox, but the winter solstice, you know, in December. Like this is, we're moving into this literal and metaphorical darkness and cultural and social darkness as well. And this is when we turn our attention to the light, cultivating the light, opening the light. I'm going to post something. Oh, I say I. If you haven't realized now, I'm not really posting on social media. I have someone who does that for me, but my social media coordinator, whom some of you actually already know, if you've set Love and Rage, we'll be posting some practices and prayers in the coming days this week. So if you're connected to Instagram, and y'all post it on Twitter as well. If you have that, and then we'll put it out in the newsletter this next month, beginning of next month. Any case, we'll get into like more candle work and magic more so next week. I'll talk a little bit about that. But you know, if you have a candle, light it. And then you know, just you know, moving into a little bit of practice. You know, getting set up for that. Taking your seat, or just you know, coming into a position that feels appropriate for you, and practicing. And we're gonna work with the 7 homecomings as well. And if you're new to the seven homecomings, we'll walk through it, right? To set the practice up. So again, shifting your attention to the seat, noticing the seat, the weight of your body. And letting the seat, as we explored last week, letting the seat really care for you, letting the seat rise to hold you. And connecting even further down into the earth so our attention connects into the consciousness of the earth under us. And just connecting to the energy of stability, groundedness, the energy of foundation expressed from the earth. And let's begin to offer gratitude to the earth. And the earth also representing the mother, the cosmic awakened mother. With, the mother being associated with space and fluidity. And offering that energy of gratitude down into the earth, we are thankful for the earth. And we can feel that gratitude and just imagine that we just offer that energy into the earth because our attention and really our consciousness, right, has connected to the consciousness of the earth. So there's a psychic link, right? And that just becomes this channel that we can send, this energy down into the earth really easily. So sending this energy down into the earth. We begin to imagine as we send this energy of gratitude down into the earth, that the earth begins to glow, begins to radiate this white light. The earth is glowing, awakening, as a response to our offering of gratitude. And so moving, just beginning to notice our bodies, right? And we're going to focus on the central channel, the Uma, or what do we call it in other traditions? Sesuma. I'm calling it the Uma, like Uma Thurman. So the Uma is the central channel that runs parallel to the spine. So the central channel, runs from really the tailbone up to the top of the head. right? And it's essential, it's a channel that energy flows up and down through, right? And all of our channels in our bodies connect somehow into the central channel. But if you're able to have the capacity to work with your breath, I just invite you to imagine that you're breathing up and down the central channel. So when you inhale, it's like you're inhaling like up the central channel, and when you exhale, it's like you're exhaling down. And that's the central channel breath, right? And we're helping to clear, the energy in the central channel, because we're going to be sending some energy up the central channel in a moment. And if you're not working with the breath, we'll return to a practice to connect you more into in a moment. So a few more breaths. One more breath. So continuing with the breath, I invite you to imagine that your breath is shifting down to the tailbone, to the root of the Uma, the central channel. And as you inhale, imagine that you're inhaling from the light energy of the earth. And as you inhale, you're inhaling this light energy up the central channel to the top of the central channel and just keeping it there. So with every breath, you're imagining that you're just filling more and more the central channel up with this energy of light from the earth. So if you visualize this, you can visualize your body as being translucent, but with a beam of light running up and down the center of the body, parallels with the spine. And if you're not working with the breath, just imagine that the light from the earth is beginning to fill up the central column of the Uma. I should have mentioned this earlier, but if you're working with the breath, you can inhale through the nose, exhale out of the mouth. So a couple more breaths, a couple more moments of visualizing the light in the central channel. One more breath. So taking just a short break here, right? So letting go of the breath, but just focusing on either this visualization of the central channel as a beam of light, in the body, or just this feeling or at least, at the very least, this belief, right, that there is this column of earth energy in the form of light in the body. And so next, so I'm going to describe the practice before we get into it. So in this next part of the practice, I want us to imagine that this beam of light actually begins to rise up, extend into the space above our head, which is representing the sky, or the father principle. So the earth is the mother, the sky is the father. So again, like working with these dualities, you know. And so as, again, we haven't started practicing, but as the light um, kind of makes its way up into the space above our heads, it doesn't have to feel like it's up, in the sky itself, but just directly above our heads, that the space above our heads becomes filled with this energy of light. In my practice, it feels like these circles and swirl. It's like a huge swirl of light above my head, and that becomes like a portal. Opening like this portal above our heads, and that's where we're going to invite our homecoming energies and beings to emerge, right? As an old, well, it's not so, I guess it is an old gospel song that says, just above my head, I hear music in the air. Right? So we're going to start calling these beings to resonate above our heads. Okay, so let's move into the actual practice. So you can imagine this with or without the breath. I'll just give instructions for the breath. If you're not working with the breath, just do the visualization and opening up the energy above our heads, okay? So for those of you working with the breath, returning to the breath, a few inhales and exhales up and down the Uma. Okay. And so as we inhale, so again, inhaling up the Uma, and then when we exhale, imagine that the exhale shoots out the top of the head, carrying this beam of light above our heads where it begins to collect and swirl, right, above our heads, right? So inhaling up to the top of the head, exhaling this light out the top of the head where it begins to swirl just above our heads. And you can just begin to imagine that this continuous beam of light is just floating up, beaming out the top of the head into the space above our heads. And just working with that for a couple of moments. Right? Once we feel like this energy of light is above our heads, I invite you to start calling into the space for 7 homecomings. So beginning with the homecoming or coming home to our guides and teachers and so forth, just calling to the space above our heads as if like this swirl of light is a portal that they begin to descend out of, hovering above our heads. Now, this can be a little higher, and they go up to the ceiling of where you're practicing. You know, if you're inside, you know, if you're outside, you can figure it out. So it's a little ways up. I have a house with high ceilings, so I'm a little ways up here. But so your guides, your teachers, any being who loves you really begins to descend out of this portal of light and begins to hover above our heads. And when you're ready, you can move into the energy of the wisdom text of the Dharma itself. Just calling that energy out of that portal, whatever that energy looks and feels like. The energy of teachings, the energy of clarity, and anything that helps us to experience clarity. And then you can move into communities, like the communities that love you and the communities that you return love into. And then our benevolent ancestors. When I say benevolent, the ancestors who are here to help, who can offer something to the work, opposed to the ancestors that we have to offer something to support them. We just want the ancestors who are resourced enough to offer something to this work that we're doing right now. Don't want anything drawing energy away. Just beings offering energy into your well-being, your care in this moment. And any being that can't offer to the work, it's fine, because we can set up other spaces in our practice to offer to them. But for beings who can't offer, we just say, not right now. I can't invite you. You're not invited right now to this work. And we also invite our lineages into the work as well. So our spiritual lineages or any community or group of people whom we identify with. So those beings begin to emerge out of this portal. And again, calling the energy of the earth to be present. And calling the energy of the sky as well. And then silence, you can call into the space and any other being. You can just say any being who can offer to this work right now, I invite you into this space. And once we have a sense or a vision or a belief that these beings are hovering above our heads, begin to imagine that they begin to radiate the energy of care, awakened care, which is love and compassion and joy, all of that, they begin to radiate that energy down to us. Like, so they become like the sun, radiating the warmth and the blessings down over us. Right. So as that is happening, we can imagine ourselves like flowers. So imagine yourself to be a beautiful flower, like a bud, right? A beautiful, like a rose. And then as this energy radiates from our homecoming circle down over us, we begin to blossom, we begin to open our petals. And as we open our petals, we begin to absorb this energy of care. And not only are we absorbing this energy of care, this energy is also creating this protective boundary and circle of light around us. That our space just begins to be filled with light. Our bodies are filled with light. Our minds are filled with light. Our thoughts of the past begin to be filled with light. Our thoughts about the future begin to be filled with light. Everything's filled with light. The earth is filled with light. The sky is filled with light. And we're absorbing this light deeper and deeper, just moving into our bodies, into our organs and skin and muscle and bones, but even like sinking deeper into our molecules, our cells, into our DNA. But our DNA begins to be filled with light. And as our DNA is filled with light, this light begins to dissolve the trauma and how trauma has impacted our DNA. We're going to chant our first mantra for Medicine Buddha. I think we're going to do something a little different just for tonight, but we're just going to chant the first mantra, Menasanya Kino Soha, beginning with So beginning with chanting and then chanting the rest of the mantra a couple of times. And we're going to do something a little different. Okay, beginning. Om La Sangye Kino Soa Om La Sangye Kino Soa Om La Sangye Kino Soa transition into the main mantra now. And as we transition into this main mantra, I want to invite you to imagine that as you're this flower opening up to this energy of light, as we move through the mantra, that you slowly begin to dissolve into this light, that you become light itself. And so before we do that, right now, I want you to say, if you mean it, I want you to say, I am choosing the light now. I am choosing the light now. I choose the light. And that, that phrase, that choice becomes the door into which we enter into the experience of becoming light. And just hover in that light. Go as far as you want to go. I'll bring you back, don't worry. And as I begin to chant the mantra, okay? So again, I choose the light and let the light take you. Begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze ma begenze raza sumunga te soa te ana begenze 제하다 백연세 백연세라 백연세라 수분간대수아 제하다 백연세 백연세라 백연세라 수분간대수아 제하다 beings, Radha Sumagate Soha. Te Ada Hum beings, Ma beings, Radha Sumagate Soha. Te Ada Hum beings, Ma beings, Radha Sumagate Soha. Te Adam Beyenze, Beyenze, Ma Beyenze, Raza Sumungate Soa. And continuing to float within this light. I'm gonna just offer our prayers. As I offer the prayers, just imagining that you just extend yourself as this expression of light into the lives and situations of people who are being offered up in prayer. Again, within this realm of light, this realm we call the attention of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Dharma protectors, the angels, the ancestors, all the elements, including Father Sky and Mother Earth, and all benevolent beings and energies. We ask you to take these prayers and to work on our behalf to bring about what we most need to happen for those whom we're offering prayers for. We begin to offer prayers for legal issue to be resolved with compassion for the benefit of those involved. Prayers for me that I may stop being consumed by the fear around the case. Offering prayers of healing and courage for all children and young people struggling to learn that they are the beloved incarnate. And offering prayers for my ability to loosen my attachment to controlling people and things I cannot control. I have the strength to grieve those attachments. May my attachments be food. May I digest them and may I transform them. Offering prayers for Mandy, may she feel the light. Offering prayers for everyone at the upcoming retreat, that it may be fruitful and fill us with love that we can spread again. Offering prayers that I stay connected to the light in my practice as I deal with anxiety around abnormalities on my mammogram. I can't get a biopsy for 2.5 weeks and then more waiting after that. So prayers that is all workable and healing and understanding so I can continue my work in this world for years to come. Prayers for my benefactor circle, the benefactor circles of world's present, and for all the teachers. Offering prayers for my sister Dana, who is struggling greatly, both emotionally and financially. Offering prayers for offering prayers and offering prayers and support for myself and members of my family that have trouble and addiction to alcohol. Offer prayers that all beings have the love, support, and resources they need to be free. I pray for Janie, who is undergoing surgery for breast cancer soon. Offering prayers that I may quickly and easily shed these old patterns of fear and self-loathing. We're offering prayers for baby Zen, including their parents and family who died this past Friday at One Week Old. Prayers for my immediate family for generational healing. Prayers for all beings dying from overdose. Prayers for my daughter and her husband. Prayers for Abraham as he navigates dementia and Alzheimer's. Prayers for me and that I receive all the support systems that I need at this time. Prayers for Matoka, who is recovering from COVID. Prayers for Sandra that she is well. Offering prayers that my body heals smoothly and that my mind finds peace. Offering prayers for my sister Jay as she navigates her husband's decline due to Alzheimer's. Offering prayers that those who are unintentionally hurt to be fully freed from any residue from our actions that went awry. Offering prayers that we break free once and for all from the illusions of what is actually created by the mind. Offering prayers for Lama Rod and Spring and their integration of Buddhist practice and plant medicine. May their work blossom a thousandfold. Offering prayers for my dear daughter, that she feels alive, engaged, supported, and connected. Offering offering prayers that the divine let itself be known in the hearts of everyone, especially those who most need it. Offering prayers of gratitude for Lama Rod and for Reverend Angel. Offering prayers for my son who was called the N word on the playground in Hamtramck last weekend. His first such experience and his processing identity, anger, and being himself in this world. Prayers for Crown, who is entering hospice with advanced cancer. Offering prayers for my niece that she may stop stealing and develops healthy coping mechanisms, and for our family to create a space that provides her with the security and healing she needs. Prayers for T and G that their new marriage be blessed. Prayers for D and R that their marriage be blessed and that their family be strengthened. Offering prayers for M, who is exhausted and wants to be supported more. Offering prayers for the rivers that they may flow on and be cleaned and that the water spirits are activated and appreciated. Prayers for my heart and my kidneys that they may be strengthened, activated, and release blockages, toxins, and imbalances. Prayers for all those struggling to find affordable housing, especially as winter comes here. Prayers for those who need to move to be safe and find a sense of security or stability or being resourced. We're offering prayers for P and all the women and people that he has intimidated or harmed, and for the community accountability healing process to exhibit wisdom, compassion, and transformation. Prayers that I may continue to welcome and more ease into my life. May I unlearn any addictions to chaos and stress and hypervigilance. May I calm and release the inflammation, trauma, and imbalance in my body. May I welcome in more harmony, vitality, and love. Offering prayers for my brother who's going through a hard time right now, but doing his best. Offering prayers for me as I move through many transitions. Prayers for all as they move through a difficult period. Prayers for my father, Brad, as he recovers from heart surgery. My mother, Annette, as she prepares for a brain procedure on Wednesday. And prayers for Isabel as she struggles with depression and thoughts of self-harm. Offering prayers for L and C's mom, who has transitioned, and for Annie, who was very close to her, and for my wife, who is getting a biopsy. Offering prayers for my grandmother, Nina, and those caring for her. Prayers for Christine as she continues to navigate sudden hearing loss, and prayers for all those who are suffering. Offering prayers for my body as we step into holding virtual space for community to metabolize grief and heartache and honor our ancestors. May we grow in capacity and become more efficient in transmuting and of offering to the earth with what no longer needs to be held alone, remembering the intricate web of care from many realms that holds and guides us. Offering prayers for all being seen and unseen that are affected by suicide, and prayers for my continued work of compositing and alchemizing what does not serve me. Prayers for all survivors of sexual violence. May they heal and find their way to feel at home in their body and in their sexuality. Prayers for my daughter and son-in-law as they parent two children on the autism spectrum and have trouble connecting and feeling safe. Offering prayers for Damprana, Emily, Coffee, Shava Bailey, for my friend Natasha's daughter, for Shaya Eisenberg, and for my son who is moving back home in 2 weeks, and his safety as he travels so much for work. offering prayers for Warren, who recently died, offering prayers for my teacher Lojo Rinpoche on his 80th birthday next weekend. I want to continue to offer prayers for Khalil and for the safety and health of his mother Desiree and father Adam. Continue to offer prayers for Tremaine, that he may find the healing and safety he needs to be well. Offering prayers for Sammy, for Milo, and for Mike, that they experience the deepest well-being, happiness, and joy. And I continue to pray for all beings in the world, for the women in Iran, for um, for all peoples who are experiencing the push towards freedom and liberation, that all systems of violence and discrimination and control are completely abolished, that we all may experience the deepest well-being, happiness, and joy, and that we all may be free as quickly as possible. I'm going to shortly turn our attention back to the mantra just for a moment or two. And again, letting go of concerns, worries, anxieties, offering this into the light, offering these prayers into the realm of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, and the angels, and all the beings we've asked to hold these prayers and work for us on our behalf. Just letting go and floating in the light itself. May all beings be free from all forms of suffering. Wo te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Te agaum begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasum gantes oha. Slowly, we allow ourselves to come back into form, bringing our attention to the seat and the weight of our bodies, letting our bodies form again, using the seat to anchor our attention and pull us out and ground us back into this timeline. We imagine that all the light above our heads, our homecoming circles, benefactors, all the energy from the earth itself, that all that begins to dissolve even more into white light. And imagining that that white light is absorbed completely into our bodies. We offer gratitude to all the elements of our practice, to the earth and to the sky, to our benefactors and seven homecomings, to all the beings working on our behalves to hold our prayers. We offer gratitude to this community and to the lineage of teachers who have made this practice possible. And when you're ready, beginning to reawaken the body through some simple movements, a few deep breaths if that's a part of your practice. And we will prepare to recite our last prayer for the evening. Shanti Deva's prayer. And we'll recite this 3 times together to dedicate the energy of our practice to the liberation of all beings. Okay. We begin. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, a boat, a bridge, a passage for all those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as the earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the nurse and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, and a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I also support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach to the ends of space. To choose, to know that you're choosing the light is this feel it's the experience of holding space, of non-reactivity, just like holding it, you know. Um, Connecting to love, connecting to compassion, connecting to the openness of the heart. is what we begin to experience when we choose the light. And you begin to feel that. You begin to have visions and dreams of how of which confirm that you're choosing the light as well. And then how often should one take steps to cleanse the house? I mean, often. It can be as simple as lighting incense, um, doing water blessing. You can do a lot of different things, but incense, I think, is a really good way. Smudging, using sage or just sage incense is also really good. Um, yeah, that's good. I think that's fine. We'll talk about it more later. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So I will see some of you this week at the Boomy Smarter retreat here. Um, I'm excited to see you all. And next week we'll have our Halloween practice, and October will be over after that. So thank you so much for your practice. Again, stay connected through the newsletters and so forth. Feel free to offer any kind of financial support for myself or for Boomy Sparsha as well. These donations help keep the work going. It makes this space possible for us to offer this and for me to be present to this work as well. Okay, so thank you, everyone. And again, for those of you who are celebrating, happy Diwali. And I'll see some of you in a couple of days. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Please be well.